Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life.
So welcome, everyone. Today, we are talking with Joey about his trip to Los Angeles. You know, Joey Stuckey is here every fourth Sunday on Big Blend Radio on our Music Talks series. And today's going to talk about going to LA, some of the attractions he visited, but also he jumped into the music world, did some recording, did some performing. So we're going to catch up on that. And then I believe next month, in the great month of August, it is the most important month of the year, August. The whole month is very important. And National Parks Week is the week of August 22nd. So we're going to be doing a show just on national parks and public lands. So music for that. So I'm excited. We've got LA. We've got two travel themes shows here, Joey. This is cool. How are you?
Well, my friend, how are you?
Doing good, doing good. So, Frank, you went to Hollywood, you went to LA.
Absolutely, yeah. My dad literally said to me, so people make an error in judgment if they ever even partially offer me an opportunity. Because if you offer me something, I will probably take it and I will do it. And I will expect you to honor your word. And so, that's how this whole LA trip started, was people saying to me, we should make some music together. Okay. So then I remembered that. I was like, okay, now's the time. So I will explain more about that later. But when I left LA in January of 26, after going up there for a NAMM and Grammy Week and all this stuff, I discovered that there was something called the Les Paul Foundation for the less famous, guitar player Les Paul. And the foundation, promotes his legacy, but what they really want to do is re-release all of his recordings. And so the step one to do that is digitize those, because currently they're all on tapes. Step two is to remix them. And then step three is to remaster them. And then step four is to release them to the public so they can be consumed. And they have hundreds of tapes that he left behind when he died. Some of them are very old. Some of them are more contemporary, but a lot of them are unreleased. So what they had to do, and I will not pretend to be an expert in all of the historical information, but what they had to do was reconstruct, like refurbish his original recording equipment from the 50s, because otherwise they couldn't play these tapes. They were all, formatted to work on his custom equipment. And so that was a real challenge. So they spent quite a bit of money refurbishing it. And then they rented a studio space at the United Studios in LA. And they put in this 1940s vinyl lathe. So you could actually record direct to vinyl if you wanted.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is, awesome. They brought up his original 8-track real machine, which was quite an advancement in his day. They refurbished his 8-channel all-tube mixing console, and it has no faders. Everything's a knob, and so it's very sort of 50s sci-fi looking. And they put all this stuff together so they could work with his tapes. And if it's closed to the public, but you can schedule a trip for educational purposes for high schools and colleges and that kind of thing. And I found out about it right at the end of my trip in January. And I called a friend and said, I just found out about this Les Paul thing, and I want to visit. Do you know who I could talk to? And my friend said, I don't know him well. We've met. I have his card. Here's his email address. So, it's 2 days before we're leaving from LA. So I emailed. I thought, they'll never let me in, but I'll try. And I basically said, look, I'm a blind musician. Les Paul's one of my heroes. I had the privilege of shaking his hand and seeing him play, about 6 months before he passed away, something like that. And I was like, I just want to touch the console and just feel it. And I'll be out of your hair. Look, if you give me 15 minutes, I'll be in and out and be gone. And they said, sure. And so I went in, and they gave me not 15 minutes, but 2 hours, where Tom Camuso, the official engineer for Les Paul Foundation, took me through the process that he had to go through to make these tapes work, and just showed me around the studio and and just, played me some music and that they were working on restoring, and some of it had never been released before, and some of it had been remastered, and it was just an incredible experience. And then he did something he wasn't supposed to do, but I'll tell the story because it's too late now. There was a glass case up against the wall, and it had Les Paul's personal customized guitar in it. And he opened the case and took it out. He said, "I'm not supposed to do this, but because of not being able to see, and also because there's no way for you to appreciate this instrument by looking at it, and also because you're such a diehard fan of Les Paul, I'm going to let you hold his guitar." And he said, "Now, what you got to understand is these strings have not been changed since the last time Les played them."
Oh boy!
And I was like, so I mean, Lisa, I am you probably don't know this, but I am extremely aggressive when I play my guitar. I hit the guitar with some force. I hit it with intention and authority. And I do that because of a fundamental sonic principle that I believe in, which is that the more you hit the instrument, the harder you hit the instrument, whether it's a drum or a saxophone or a guitar or whatever, the more fundamental frequency you will get from the instrument. So fundamental frequency, without going down a rabbit hole, that just means like more of the sound of the instrument, like the sound you expect to hear from the instrument just gets stronger. You hear the fundamental or its primary attributes. If you play softly, and sometimes that's okay. I mean, I'm not saying I can't play softly. I can, I do, but generally I don't. But if you play softly, what happens is that you get more of the harmonics or partial frequencies that are coming from adjacent parts of the instrument vibrate. That's a big part of jazz, like with drums for particular, like a lot of the overtones that you hear from jazz drums are not the fundamental frequencies. So anyway, but the point is that generally speaking, I'm pretty aggressive. So I just knew that if I shredded on Les Paul's guitar, I would be the jerk that broke the string. So I strummed like 2 chords, and I said, "This is too much pressure. Take it away." I was like, I can't be the guy that ruined the guitar. Like I'm too nervous. I appreciate the honor, but please put this away. I'm going to have a heart attack. So it's like, so I mean, really, so anyway, during our conversation, I kind of go something like, "What would it take to record here? I want to record here." Like, and he's like, "Yeah, that nobody's done it. And, we want to do it at some point, but it's just never happened. And nobody's done it yet. And we've had people like Joe Bonamassa and different ones, say that they would love to record here sometime or whatever. But, we just haven't figured it all out. But, one day maybe we could do that." And I said, "Well, I want to be the first. I want to be the first person to record here." And he's like, "Yeah, that would be nice if we make that happen, just real nebulous."
And Joey's like, "Here's my calendar."
And Tom didn't realize it, but he just made a critical error because he said, "Oh yeah, maybe we can make that happen."
Yeah. That
was a mistake. So when I get back to Georgia, I start politely sending emails and going, "Tom, what do I have to do to take you up on your offer to be the first person to record the Les Paul studio? What's it going to take? Within reason, I'll do just about anything. What do we have to do here?" So over the course of a couple of weeks, I finally got like the okay that yes, you're going to be the first person to do it. When do you want to do it? So that's the reason I went back to LA in June of this year, was because I was going to do that. Now, at the same time, when I was in LA in January for Grammy Week and all that stuff, my buddy Dusty Wakeman, who's the CEO of Mojave Microphones and has played with and produced people like Lucinda Williams and Dwight Yoakam and all these different folks, and my newer friend David Raven, who's played with like Steve Lukather and Robin Hitchcock and all these cool people. They both backed me up in a little showcase in January, and they said with genuine love and affection and joy, when we were done playing our little 2-song, 3-song showcase, they're like, "Man, this was awesome. We got to do this more often. We got to do this again." Okay.
Here we go.
So then I'm like, "Okay, guys, we're recording at the Les Paul studio. You said you wanted to play some more music together. Here's our chance." And so that is how it all started. So I ended up being in LA for 17 days. One of those days was a rehearsal with David and Dusty, and of course they already had all the demos and stuff that I'd sent them to be listening to. But we need to go through rehearsal and kind of tighten that up. We had the 12-hour session that we booked in the Les Paul studio, and I'll go into that more detail later. Then we had another 3 days that I booked at the drummer's house because he has a home studio for us to record some stuff. And then we had a 45-minute set at the world famous Whisky a Go-Go. And the headlining band that night was, we were the openers for them. And that band was Bow Wow Wow from the 80s. We were talking about 80s music earlier.
I remember
I
Bow Wow
Want
Wow.
Candy. Yeah. So I Want Candy was their big, song.
Yeah.
And so they were the headliners that night. And then the other days that were there, I went to really interesting. I got a chance to meet one of my all-time heroes. He has a fabulous YouTube channel. His name's JJ Blair. He's a really fantastic recording engineer, producer, and I'm just a fan. And I watch his stuff. He puts out, I wouldn't say he puts out something every week, but it's close to something every week. He usually does about 15, 20 minutes, something like that. It's video as well as audio. And it's him typically talking about either a microphone in his collection. He's got a pretty nice mic collection, or it's him taking like multi-track audio from your favorite songs and like breaking it down and going, oh, this is what the bass is doing. And this is what So I just reached out to him cold and just said, hey, I'm a fan. I'm coming to town to record Les Paul, blah, blah. Like, I will buy an hour of studio time to come and shake your hand and say hello, because I'm such a big fan. And he was like, oh man, you don't have to do that. Just come by and visit me at the house, and we'll get together, we'll visit. So I got to meet him and visit with him for about 2 hours. And he actually has a Grammy for his work with June Carter Cash. Wow, pretty interesting. And then on top of that, another day I went to Beetronics Q, aka The Hive, and they make guitar pedals for like boutique guitar pedals that I have a few, and I've become one of their artist endorsers. And so I went to their offices where they do all the assembly and all the paint, custom paint jobs, and all the different stuff. And I got to play. They brought out every pedal they made and put them all on a board and let me play with them all. Out of about 24 pedals they showed me, I'm delighted to tell you that I operated with great restraint and only bought 3. So for me, that was pretty good. And we were talking about like, what's the possibility of putting Braille on these pedals? Like, how would that work? And
cool.
That was their idea. It wasn't my idea. It's like, would it be helpful if you had Braille on these? I was like, well, it would. I don't know, but so we did that, and then I'll finish up with this. We went to Harman HQ because of a party that I went to back in January. I met a wonderful lady there who is their head of like artist relations. Is what basically what it is. They call it something. They call it something different. I can't remember what they call it, but that's what it is artist relations. And she was like, if you ever need anything, like just hit me up. And okay, so. I didn't think, honestly, she was going to remember me. And, but 2 weeks later, I got an email and she said, look, if you're ever in LA, whenever you're in, just like, let me know. And we want you to come visit us over at Harman HQ. And so I said, okay, great. So then I'm like, hey, I'm going to be in town and here's why. She's like, okay, cool. So Harman owns about 7 different brand of musical equipment, including JBL and some others that I can't remember off the top of my head. And so they treated me like royalty. Like I walked in and on this big screen, it said, welcome Joey Stuckey on it. And so everybody knew I was coming, and like they showed me through their labs, which you weren't allowed to take pictures of the labs because that's where they're doing all their patents and stuff. But they walked me through the labs. They showed me into their anechoic chamber, which, if you're not familiar with that, is a completely isolated chamber where there's no sound reflections at all. It's totally dead. And it's really, really weird. And the floor is on springs so that it's not attached to the walls so that you can't transmit any sound through the floor. So it's,
wow.
It was trippy. And then, they said, hey, we got some new microphones coming out with AKG. Come over here and sing into them and talking to them and see which one you like the best. And, I was like, okay. So I was like playing with them. I was like, okay, this is my favorite. And they're like, yeah, that's the most expensive one. It's like, of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is, because that's how I am. And so then we're sitting there and I'm talking about the AKG 414, which is arguably one of the, it's a classic studio mic that every studio should have. And I was just, talking about it casually. And I was like, yeah, man, I really need to get one. I just hadn't done it. I don't, I didn't need one, blah, blah. And, stopped thinking about it. We went on to something else. And so when I left, they handed me a box. I was like, what is this? Like, this is an AKG 414. You have one now. So they literally gave me a $1,600 microphone And then they said, by the way, you're now one of our artists. Okay. So they went, but there was a wall, Lisa, of headphones. And
That's interesting.
they let me play like all their headphones, like, which one's your favorite? Which one, which one do you like the best? Play with these and tell me what you think. And I was like, okay, well, these are my favorite, all this stuff. And then I'll finish with this because but I think it's fascinating. They had immersive, people have like Atmos and spatial audio and all these things, surround sound. And, they're all kind of the same thing. So what the generic term for all these different experiences is basically, you're talking about like interactive spatial audio. So they call it, like I said, there's Atmos, right? So that's kind of a flavor of Atmos, but so they call it immersive audio. So it's immersive audio, 25 speakers surrounding you, the surrounding you, front, sides, back, and the ceiling, and also subwoofers. And so they had 25 speaker array set up in this big auditorium, and you could experience like, a concert in this immersive audio situation, all powered by JBL. And what's really fun is there was a pedestal in the center of the room with a huge red button on it that says, don't press the big red button. So of course you press the big red button and that starts this pre-programmed display of lights and fog and music, and there's all these different sounds zooming all around the room, and it was just amazing. So then they took us into the recording studio to hear, immersive audio in sort of the recording environment, and they played Elton John's Rocket Man in immersive audio, and it was quite an experience. I mean, it really, really was amazing. Like the way they put the instruments all around the room and all these different speakers, and it was just really interesting. And so that was the thing. And so the only thing I sort of left out of the LA experience in quick summary is that I went to, before we started the podcast, you and I were talking about accessibility and, my work in that and how important that is, especially in towns that have tourism and everything else. So the La Brea Tar Pits offered a behind the scene tour where you get to go to the actual tar pits and, hear them, gurgling and bubbling and all that stuff. And
you got to play with the mammoth.
Yes, I did. And I got to you got to sort fossils and check out actual fossils that came out of the tar pit. Now, admittedly, they were pretty small, fossils. Most of the giant ones have already been excavated. But anyway, it was this wonderful, hour and a half tour behind the scenes and showing you where they were digging and all these different excavating. And so we finished with that. And I will say that, at first, the museum was a little concerned when I wrote them and said, I'm blind and I want to do this behind the scenes thing. And they basically said, I'm abbreviating, but okay, are you sure you're capable of doing it? Is basically what they said. And that was a mistake. Because I was originally going to just pay for my wife's ticket, and they didn't have the price on the website, which is always a bad sign. So it cost like $150. Okay, so I originally was just pay for my wife's tickets. That did $300. I was like, you shouldn't have said that. So now I was like, well, yes, I'm quite capable, and I will sign any kind of waiver you need, and I will guarantee that if there's something dangerous or something I can't do, I will not do that. Because I'm not crazy. But also, as my site guide, I need a free ticket for my wife now. And really, according to ADA, that is actually what's required. Anyway, I just usually don't bother to enforce it. But since they questioned my ability, I think I will have that free ticket. Anyway.
Well, Well, I mean, it is amazing. I mean, that's when you think about families with kids and how much it costs, in the world to get around and do things. And, and you have a special needs kid, it gets, it's a lot.
The UK, you and I both are big fans of the UK. They really do it right. They look for you. Like I literally, when I was in France, when I was in London, they actually look for you. And they, like when we were at the Louvre, I just got in line with everybody else. I didn't want any special treatment, didn't need it. I was, I'm able to walk. It's not like I have, walking issues, but I have my cane and I have my, stuff to help me move through a crowd. And anyway, but this guy came from security and grabbed us and he's like, you're in the wrong line. And we're like, oh God, what have we done? But he actually took us to the front of the line, moved the ropes, and like we were literally foot and a half of the Mona Lisa. And I
Wow.
was like, and he's like, stay as long as you want. I was like, well, I don't want to like take, mess up other people's, experience. So we're not going to stay very long. And I can't see it anyway. And I certainly would not be allowed to touch it, but it was cool. And Jen got a really nice picture of the two of us, like super close. And then like we moved out of the way and let everybody else have their minute, but they look for you. Like when we went to the London Eye, they were like, I paid for my ticket. And then they're like, oh, Jennifer, they call him your carer, but as your carer, she doesn't owe anything for her ticket. So they automatically said that to her. When we went to the Arch of Triumph, same thing. They're like, I paid for my ticket. And like, oh, was this his carer? Like, it doesn't cost you anything to go through the Arch and go through the museum and all that kind of stuff. And truthfully, I mean, I couldn't really appreciate most of the Arch anyway. It was mostly a visual experience, but it was fun to be there. So I think that's appropriate. I mean, like I say, usually I do not ever request any special accommodation unless it's absolutely necessary. But when you say something to me like, well, we're not sure you're capable of coming to this event, and we're not sure, basically what they're saying is we're not sure you're welcome. At that point, I'm like, oh, okay, that's now it's going to be a thing.
Wow. That's an interesting thing. I mean, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I don't think that the people at the actual museum had the issue, because when I got there was no problem, and they were very cognizant of my needs. And there was a young lady who was on the autism spectrum, and they were very cognizant of her needs. And they were older people that, could walk, but, so they're like, hey, if you get up to a point where you're tired, you can sit down. Like, there are a couple places we have. If you need anything, like, I will go get you water. Like, I will help you. But they were more than accommodating. So I don't think it was the actual staff at the park that was kind of being silly. But, I remained respectful the whole time. But I was like, well, I mean, you don't know me, and you're not really, if you get any kind of government funding, you're not really allowed to even ask me those questions. Like, I mean, the ADA has some very specific guidelines. Again, typically I don't even pretend that it's there, but I was a little vexed. So
Exactly. Wow. So this was how long were you in LA? Like
17 days.
Wow. You worked it.
And I will tell you now, and I want to share this with everybody because I think this is important. I build in days of rest. So I am a brain tumor survivor. That has given me quite a number of challenges that I have to manage daily. One of those is that I don't make adrenaline. So if I get upside down on that can be hospital time. So we really don't want that to happen. So I am very blessed in many ways to be married to my amazing wife. But just one of those ways is the fact that she has a master's degree and is an advanced practice nurse. So that is very helpful. And then, we carry a suitcase full of drugs. Some of them I have to take on a daily basis anyway, but some of them are sort of emergency supplies, like some of the things you'd find in the ER to keep me out of the hospital. So, our sort of mandate from the doctors that oversee my care is like, stay out of the hospital. Your case is really complicated. It's easy for someone to like not take care of you the way you need to be because your case is so complicated and different. So like, stay out of the hospital if you can. And so we take all these drugs and stuff. And honestly, like, TSA never gives me any trouble with that. They do give me trouble with the fact that I can't see. They appear not to be able to understand what that means. And I have a metal shoulder and a metal hip because of bone issues that I have on the brain tumor. And they kind of have a problem with that. But they won't give me any problem about the drugs. But anyway, so anyway, my point though is that we build in rest days before we hit the ground running, because when you travel for about 8 hours, I mean the plane flight is somewhere between 4.5 to 5.5 hours depending on the tailwind. Then you got to get to the airport a couple hours early to make sure there's no problems. We also live an hour and 15 minutes from the airport, so we have to drive up there. Then you get to LA, and to stay where we stay, about another hour ride the car. And then, it takes about 30 minutes to get your bags. So, it's a whole day of traveling. And, I'm just exhausted afterwards. So, we built in like days of rest. So we had we had let me make sure I'm right about this. We had 3 days of rest built in, and then I put something on one of those. So something that was not initially intended, like got stuck on there. And Jim's like, hey, you said we're going to rest it. Oh, well, this has got to be done. But my point is, like, we manage my schedule very carefully. I tend not to I tend to get up about 7:30 in the morning and like then don't really do any actual work till about 11 because it gives me time to take all my medicine. And I have medicine I have to take in stages. So like I got to take this pill before that pill, an empty stomach, and blah, blah. So anyway, but we built in rest days, but we did kick it from dusk till dawn. We really did. And it was a lot of work and a lot of fun.
It's such LA is still like super vibrant, you know? It really is. It's got an energy to it. And I know it changes. The energy always shifts in every town around the world.
It does. But, you know, I'll tell you though, I feel like a big part of success in any career is being where things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of interesting because I am in a very small town in Georgia. We are a music town, but we don't maximize our history, and we certainly have not planned well for our future. I say that as the music ambassador, and I love my hometown, and I'm prepared to take flack for saying it, but the truth is the truth. And one of the things I've been pushing for the 30 years I've lived here and made music here is better infrastructure. You know, more things to support the creative community. And we have over time improved, but we're not where we need to be. Now, talent level, we got as good a talent as anywhere. And I know that because I have a recording studio, and that's what I do. I record about 40% of my business comes local, i.e. being in the state of Georgia. And then the rest of it's more international stuff and whatever. But the point is that, you know, we have this talent and everything, but the infrastructure to keep it going, to move it forward, to build it is still very much, you know, underdeveloped. But at any rate, you know, that's part of the mission is that we, you know, me and a handful of other people push, you know, trying to make this all happen for everybody. But my financial resources are here. I have made my decision to live here. I'm not going anywhere. I mean, even if I wanted to, I couldn't afford to. I've spent too much money on my gear, my building, and my reputation, and it's just not practical.
Your new gear, my gosh!
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's the thing. But when I went to LA, I started going to LA in 2019, and I go every year. Been going there every year since then for NAMM and the Grammys, and I just have really found that I started to make inroads into the upper echelon of that community. And for whatever reason, they value my presence. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm, you know, sort of an interesting person from out of town, or I don't really know the truth of it. But what I know is that I'm having to start spending more time there because there are things that are moving and levers that I'm pushing that are working for me there. So, you know, it's interesting. But, you know, the thing is, I think you can live anywhere you want and, you know, hop on a plane or get in a car or whatever and be where you need to be. If you need to be in LA for 17 days, I can do that. So, you know, I love it. With all of that to echo your point that there is a remarkable community there. There's a remarkable energy there. I'm very proud to say that a young man that interned with me for 2 summers decided, I told him, I said, look, man, you know, you're 20 years old, 22, I guess. You have no house that you have to pay for. You're not in a relationship. Now is time to go and see if you can make it. And while you're young enough to sleep on a floor, while you're have no responsibilities except yourself, like this is the time. And so he took that advice. And he's been in LA since January, and he's working at 2 different studios. And one of them, I don't remember the names, one of them pays him essentially like minimum wage to like be a runner, like, you know, like go get coffee and park people's cars and wind up cables and sweep the floor, you know, stuff like that. And the other studio pays him in studio time. And what's really great about that is he has very cleverly started booking his own clients with the studio time that he earns from his other job. And he's starting to build a roster and build his own clientele. And could not be prouder. I mean, it's just, you know, it's absolutely amazing. Now he went out there with the very stubborn desire to be an artist. Like, I don't want to work in the studio. I don't want to mix people's records. I want to be an artist. I was like, I respect that. I sympathize and I feel the same way, but like my artistry is not what pays the bills. I still do it. I still tour. I still release records, all this stuff, but that is not what pays the bulk of my bills. And you would be extremely lucky and rare if you could make that work if you could make a living solely as an artist. Like if you would be one of the few. So I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying it's very unlikely. And he has learned the lesson and pivoted. Not that he's given up on his art, but he has learned the lesson. Like, okay, I may have to do some of these other things to live. He say he lives in like a 200-foot, apartment and, sleeps on, has like 2 rooms and, it's fine while he's young. Yeah, man, do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You've got to go for it. And look at Nance and I traveling full time.
Yeah.
And we're experiencing America like really 1 mile at a time. And it's awesome. And there's, some places, oh, you're not going to get all this and that you need or whatever. You just start to learn and adapting.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing, they talk about, like, don't keep banging your head in unless you're creating a new solution to go with the flow. To go with the flow feels so much better, especially, in the professional world. Just keep banging your head. If you're always just banging your head into the wall, then maybe you need a new wall that has flow,
I mean, I think it was Einstein that said the sanity's doing the same thing over and over.
And over. Yeah.
You're right. I mean, when I learned, I have a dual nature. The first part of my nature is to never quit, never give up, and be relentless. And that has served me well as a brain tumor survivor, with the fact of me saying I refuse to allow my physical limitations to stop me from doing what I want to do. So it served me well, but there's a time to lay that aside and a time to realize that what you're doing is not working. And when you realize that, you say, okay, that doesn't mean give up. That just means change tactics. So, that's the other part of my nature is to change tactics. As you know, I have an uber nerdy, highly technical podcast that I do about the music industry. And I brought on one of my professors at Berkeley and to talk about some stuff. And she opened up to me and said, talked a little bit about her health journey because she's got some issues with her health. And it kept her, she was, slated to be this like awesome dancer. And she got sick in her 20s and like couldn't do that anymore. And her initial stance was, in her words, to be the warrior and to constantly fight the disease. And I identify with that because that's how I feel. I attack. I defend, I attack, but whatever it is, I push forward. I don't stop. I don't quit. That I just refuse. And it is a combative attitude, not with other people and not with myself, but with the challenges I face. My mental attitude is very tough and strong. And like, I don't care that I'm not supposed to be able to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to do it anyway. And so I may not do it the same way somebody else would do it, but it will get done. And so that's been my whole strategy for my entire life. So she said something that I thought was profound and interesting. I don't pretend to fully understand it because I can't, because it's against my nature. But she said that being the warrior all the time became exhausting. And she had to find a way to make her frailties, for lack of a better word, her companion and not the enemy. And I thought that was really interesting. Now, again, I can't do that. Like, that does not work for me. Like I am not gonna. I don't know how to do that. So I don't try. Like, but I mean, to your point, I mean, she realized that her stance wasn't working and or wasn't working consistently and was exhausting, and so she changed tactic, and now she's does all this amazing stuff, and she's at peace and she's happy, and she's everything is working for her. Like I said, that doesn't work for me. I have 2 speeds, and my life is basically full of speed ahead or off, and those are the 2 speeds I have. And frankly, I resent the sleep. Like I don't like the fact that I have to stop doing what I'm doing to go to sleep every night.
Exactly. I
It,
know.
it pisses me off. So, and the reason is, to be honest, and I don't mean this in a morbid way, but to be honest, I am hyper aware that my time on this plane is finite. And so while I'm not depressed by that, I'm not stressed by it, I am motivated by it. And because there are certain things I want to get done. And so for me, the best way is to have the warrior mentality and just to push, 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 push. That's what works for me. I'm not saying it's right for anybody else, but it's right for me. But anyway, it was a very profound and interesting thing. But the other part of your point, which I want to echo, is that, sometimes you have to be in certain places or do certain things, or when you find that you're not having to work as hard to get somewhere, if you do X, then you for sure should do that. I mean, I came to that realization in my personal relationships. Like I was, dating people, and it was like taking everything I had just to keep the relationship, off the ground. And I'm like, man, this is stupid. Like if it's this hard just to get to step one of this relationship, I mean, I don't have anything left to give, and we're just at the beginning. Like I'm doing something wrong. Oh, like, yeah, this is too hard. This doesn't make sense. So
Exactly.
so I'm with you, whether it's business or personal relationships or whatever. Like if it's so hard that you can't move the needle forward despite your best efforts, then you need to go where the road is easier. And I think that's a part of the big trip of being like successful and figuring out where you ought to be and what you ought to do is like, oh, where is it that I'm valued? Where is it that people take me and go, oh gosh, you're such a solution to our problem. You're such a resource to our community. Like these things are all, important to realize. So, one of the places that, I mean, Macon certainly is a place that I work and have success, but one of the other places where I'm really valued is London, and the other place is LA. So
Yep.
I travel to those places.
Well, but that's the cool thing, and it keeps things fresh and seasonal. And every place has its season. It's true.
Absolutely.
We traveled and lived all over the place, and in different countries. And sometimes a place just people change, people
Oh,
move,
yeah.
people go,
Yeah.
and the energy of a place. Okay, so there's a natural energy, nature and that,
Right.
and then there's the humans.
Yeah.
And sometimes a place is like a thriving little music town or something,
Yeah.
right? And then musician, moves on, and then this person, a festival goes away, things like a music museum goes away or something. And the whole structure of this thing that just worked at this specific time with these specific people go with it.
That's right.
And art, as much as it's long lasting, is also temporary at times. Concerts are temporary. It's temporary art that you want to bottle, and you can by recording, but it's still not as much as the same as being there, and that collective energy that especially comes from the world of music. There's a collective energy of people listening to the same song on, in the car on a road trip. There's a collective energy going to a performance, but there's places where that repeats and it's in a growth stage and it's really exciting. Then growth always means there's going to be a stopping point because nothing stays the same. And so hey, I can go over here and I met this person over here, so I'm going to make an album over there. I'm going to go to Germany and do that. The next thing you know, Germany starts to have this vibe too. And it's like, all right, let's stay there. I mean, there are seasons of music, and it's not just by entire eras or years. There's just these seasons, and it is kind of a natural cycle that we have. Like every 5 to 7 years is the super bloom in the deserts. It kind of works that way in life, I think. And I believe music is a natural energy. It's natural. It's animalistic. It's human. It goes with nature, and it's something that is, as much as we can watch and listen, it is something you can't. Yes, you can do sound waves, which mean nothing just looking at them. It's like woo woo, it's going up and down, but that is going through your body and your soul, and it attaches to your memory, and like all these neuro things happen. See, I just went on a music trip. Wasn't that cool?
I like it. Well, I think there's really a profound thing that you said is that, life is about seasons. And interestingly for me, this year, it is somewhat unique in my estimation because it's both a reaping and a sowing season for me. And so I am planting a lot of new seeds, but I'm also harvesting a lot of things that have been in the works for a while. And I have become over this year, particularly prolific in the writing of new songs. And it's like I normally am just too busy to sit down and write. It doesn't. I'm a natural writer. It takes me not long at all to write something. And fully fledged. I mean, with the bass line and the lyrics and the melody and the chords and oftentimes the drum patterns and all these things. And so, I'm quick when I get started, but it's just getting over that initial hump of making the space to do it. And so, oftentimes with I don't want to say illness, but with the health challenges that I face with no adrenaline and all that stuff, I have choices like, okay, I could go practice and I could go write songs, or I could go to bed and not feel as crappy tomorrow. So like sometimes I have to choose rest. I don't like that. It aggravates me, but sometimes I have to do it. So with this particular thing, as I started realizing that we were going to make a record at Les Paul studio, we're going to do all this stuff, I was like, man, I've got 12 hours at Les Paul. I do not have time to mess around. I have got to go in and nail it and leave. And, so I have to be ready. And, I've got one rehearsal with these guys. I have to be ready. Like it can't, it's going to work or not work based on how prepared I am. Like that's the linchpin. So I started spending, and I have had some health challenges this year and late last year. And to be honest, have not felt well at all. And frankly still don't. But anyway, I knew that I had to, whether I felt like it or not, put the guitar in my hand and get prepared. And so I did. I forced myself and just like, suck it up, get this done. You don't feel like it, but that's just too bad for you. Suck it up. Let's get this done. And so I did. And the thing was, the more I practiced, like the more stuff I wrote, and I just putting the guitar in my hand is all I really have to do. And so I kept writing songs. And I'm like, hey guys, I wrote another new one. I thought it might be fun if we did this one too. And anyway, so long story short, we did a full EP of 6 songs at the Les Paul studio. Now we had a 12-hour day, so we had to load in all of our equipment. We had to load out all of our equipment. We took 2 dinner breaks. We filmed a mini documentary with interviews. We did all that. We played our 6 songs. We did all that. We recorded to the vinyl lathe. We then mixed our 6 songs and did all that. And that was the end of our day. So we got all that done in 12 hours because, we were all really well prepared. Now, then we went to the drummer's house and recorded 12 more songs that I.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we recorded over 3 days. We recorded 12 more songs, and then we played the Whisky a Go-Go for 45 minutes, but also recorded audio and video of 10 more songs. So I got all of this music, and, now I got to figure out what the hell to do with it all. But it's an embarrassment of riches. But I do want to say this because I've kind of jumped all over the place today. But what I want to say is the Les Paul experience. We're making music on a recording console that was built in 1957. And, it only has 8 channels. And so there were basically what I wanted and what I got was 3 guys in a room making music together with a limited number of tracks, with a limited number of channels on equipment that was from the 1950s. And it was there was no fixing or we didn't play to a click. There was none of that. It was, let's just make some music together. And we might play the song 3 or 4 times, and then that would be that'd be it. And honestly, we normally got the song first or second take, but then the drummer, I say it with love, but who absolutely is the pickiest guy in the world, and in between every take, Lisa was tinkering with his drums. And in fairness, he was making them sound better every time. I can't say he wasn't. Now it was subtle. The differences were subtle. But in between takes, he would move a microphone, an inch to the left. He'd put a piece of tape on one of his drums. He'd take a drum key out and turn a lug 1 turn. I mean, he was constantly tweaking. But, in fairness, like he did actually make it sound better every time. But the bass player and I were like, okay, we got that one. And he's like, let's do another one. They're like, no, David, we don't want to do another one. It's fine. Yeah, but I changed so-and-so on my drums. They'll sound better. We don't care about your drums. It's like, we did great. And he's like, no, look. And what we realized was that we were spending more time trying to talk him out of doing another take, but it was actually faster just to do the other take. So we take it again, not because we needed to, but because he absolutely wouldn't let it go.
That's funny.
So
yeah, you know.
But what I will say is, like, what I realized was that I have been preaching, and you know this, we've had many conversations about this both on and off the air, but I'm against generative AI. I don't like it. I think it's terrible. I think it's bad. I think AI has its place. I think there are good things that it can be used for. But when it comes to taking revenue off the table for me and people like me that have spent 10,000 hours becoming a professional, I'm not for it. And so I don't know what value it has because, and I can't stress this enough, it's not alive. It's not a living being. It has no lived experience to share with you. So its contribution is pretty shallow. So I realized that this Les Paul record was essentially a live in studio record made on equipment from the 50s and was the exact antithesis to people like Suno who are trying to convince you that to live in the 21st century, the only goal worth pursuing is instant gratification, and who are these skills anyway? So it's important from that aspect as well. But there have been a very few handful of people that have heard this record, what we've gotten done. It's all mastered, finished, and ready to go. Now I just got to decide what I'm going to do with it exactly, like what channels of distribution I'm going to use. But everyone that's heard this, like, dude, this is like the greatest thing you've ever done, and it's just so human, and so, it just has such a vibe. It just has such a feel to it. And so, I mean, it really is something that I'm proud of. And it's not perfect, and designedly so. Like it's we're like, okay, well, so and so's not perfect, but while I technically can point out this, that, or the other, from a human spiritual perspective, it is perfect, and I am content to let it be what it is. So I'm really excited about it.
That's cool. That's super cool. I'm excited too. We got new music coming from Joey, y'all. This is going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Well, we look forward to next month, Joey. We're going to talk parks, public lands, and the music that is connected with them. So that's a massive topic.
Music, on that show as well, right?
Yep. We're going to do that. So we're going to be on Mixcloud with that one, which is a little different. And it's our new jukebox series where we get to play music on the show from anyone that we want to. And it's fantastic because it also, every time you listen to the show and listen to those songs, that a percentage of the profits from whatever company goes to the musician, so, something like that. But I mean, it's better than not. And we're excited about it. And it will be sitting in the Big Blend Media House. If you go to bigblendmediahouse.com, it'll be sitting there in our music room. You just click on the jukebox and you'll hear all the different shows.
I don't have my elephant in the music house yet, or an elephant there for me.
And not quite yet, but we're getting there. We have a lot to do. We have a lot to do. That house is still in building mode, but it is getting very exciting. So everyone stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, go to joeystuckey.com and check out his new big soundboard. He's got it. He's got it for sure. Thanks, Joey.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.